Will the Arab League segue into a simmering summer of discontent? Let's dig a little deeper into this issue. Irshad Manji is a professor at New York University. Her latest book is called Allah, Liberty and Love. I'm pleased to say she joins us now from Syria in New York. It's great to have you with us, Irshad.
Thank you, Aisha.
I want to start by asking you what you make of the fact that, unlike the situation in Libya, the Arab League has been practically silent and hasn't condemned the actions of the Assad regime in Syria. What do you make of that?
I'm heartbroken. We're talking about 1,300 people already killed in Syria, 10,000 people arrested, countless displaced, as we know from the reports of refugees streaming into Turkey, among other places. I mean, what will it take, Aisha, for the Arab League to recognize that it can't keep pointing fingers at the West and saying, stay out of our business because we can handle our own affairs, when it's clear that they're not even willing to touch their own affairs? This is part of what I'm arguing in Allah, Liberty and Love. That, you know, if we Muslims, and I realize this is not a religious issue, but you know that the world does attribute, you know, something to the fact that we are Muslims in this area of the world. If we Muslims are going to be preaching to everybody that Islam means peace, then we can't merely leave it at a slogan. We have to behave as if that's true. We are the ones who have to own up to what is happening in our Muslim majority areas of the world and take responsibility.
Now, you talk in your book, in Allah, Liberty and Love, you talk about the concept of moral courage. Explain for our viewers what that means and how you see that applying to these events that are playing out.
Quite simply, moral courage is the willingness to speak up when everyone else wants to shut you up. And, you know, there was no greater demonstration or series of demonstrations, if I can put it that way, of moral courage than what we have seen during the so-called Arab Spring. Young, secular Democrats literally putting their lives on the line to advocate for the reconciliation of faith and freedom. And the fact that so many other sectors of mainstream society joined them afterwards to truly make these popular revolts goes to show that moral courage is possible within the world of Islam, within the Arab world. And this is why I keep making the argument, you know, that we are capable as Muslims of doing this for ourselves. But it's not enough to say, you know, keep out of our affairs. We've got to start again pushing the envelope.
Now, by and large, as you rightly pointed out, these uprisings have been about a search for greater political freedom, greater social freedoms, not necessarily about the religion, Islam itself, in these Muslim majority countries. Mm-hmm. But you have said that Islam is in a state of crisis. In fact, you've gone as far as to say that it has a totalitarian streak at its core. Do you see people taking advantage of this so-called Arab Spring to actually look at the religion itself and push for greater freedom and greater debate?
Let me be very clear, Aisha, that I've never argued that at its core Islam has a totalitarian streak. Quite the opposite. I'm arguing that we Muslims, you know, are capable of having much more open-minded and liberal interpretations of Islam that show that Allah can be a God of love. And just to that point, you know, 6 years ago I was in Cairo, at the time the largest anti-government demonstrations, and afterwards I hung out with a bunch of democracy activists, one of whom came up to me, a young woman, to say, Irshad, I've seen you on CNN International and I know, you know, what you're about. And let me tell you, I'm a Muslim woman who has fallen in love with a Jewish man. And I know I don't have to choose between my faith and the love of my life. I can have both, but I don't know how to tell my parents this. Can you give me some advice? This is what the new generation is all about. Sure, there will be people who try and take advantage of the push for freedom. But again, democracy is a process, not just an outcome. And my strong prayer, hope, and belief is that secular Democrats will push even further to ensure that their revolution has not become corrupted.
So, talk to me about what wannabe reformists can do at a time like this.
There are several things that we can do, and it depends on where we are in the world. For example, if you are, an American Muslim or a reformist Muslim living in Europe, you've got to work obviously within your own communities to ask questions out loud. And one of the things I point out even to non-Muslims in my book, Allah, Liberty and Love, is that there are historical examples, very recent examples of, Gandhis within the world of Islam. We don't know about them because we're rarely taught about them, but if you read the book, you'll see that you can even use stories like this to inspire younger people in your own community and even lobby local schools and city councilors and school principals to bring these stories into the social studies curriculum. So there are all kinds of ways that we can work together individually and together to show that Islam is capable of much better than our own community leaders are giving it credit for.
A slight sidetrack from the book, but I'm very interested in your perspective on this. It emerged in the last 2 days, in fact, that certainly a blogger that we had believed was a female lesbian blogger based in Damascus, in fact running the blog Gay in Damascus, in fact was being run by a male. And in fact today a separate blogger with a website, a blog called Let's Get It Real, or something along those lines, it's been unveiled that too was run by a man. I'm wondering what these instances do to people who are looking at engaging their own moral courage to stand up and speak when you have such things happening in their midst, and whether that doesn't just undermine the whole project.
Well, to a certain degree, it does undermine the project because, we are living in a 24/7 digital universe where all kinds of anonymous people can take on the identities of others. And in a case like this, certainly it doesn't help Syrian dissidents because, of course, the government can now use these hoaxes as yet more quote-unquote evidence that, allegations of human rights abuses against minorities such as gays and lesbians or religious minorities in Syria, all of this stuff is fabricated. All of it is made up, and here's yet more proof of that, the government can say. So it doesn't help in that regard. But, Aisha, again, because we now as individuals have so much access to various platforms, the morals and the ethics that we bring to those platforms will make a very, very big difference in whether our messages will get out. Jihadis know this, but also Muslim reformists know this, and this is why we need to get even savvier as Muslim reformists and our non-Muslim allies at using, digital platforms to speak our truths. And just very briefly, finally, I'll say, young Muslims taught me that, after my previous book came out, and because of the burst of international publicity it got, they asked me, when are you going to get your book translated into Arabic so we can share these ideas with our friends? I told them no Arab publisher will touch it. They said, forget that. Put your book on your website, translate it into Arabic there, and when we can download it free of charge, that's when we will be able to share these ideas with our friends. Just a few years later, they've proven to be true to their word, 2 million downloads and counting. So again, we've got to get savvy about how to use these digital platforms, knowing that our reformist message can get further and faster today than ever before.
So you are optimistic about the future in these predominantly Arab societies, that we are going to see more open, more tolerant societies?
I've always been optimistic, and even when people have accused me of being too critical, I've always pointed out that it's about having and knowing that we are capable of doing better. Arab Spring has shown that to be true, and we'll see what the future holds, but there is indeed reason for real hope.
Irshad Manji, professor at New York University and the author of the new book, Allah, Liberty and Love. It was great to have you here at the iDesk.
Thank you so much, Aisha.
Thank you.